The slide of due diligence is a two-way process, and we must ask the investors, who are they? Are they venture? Are they impact? Are they private? Are they commercial? Are they long-term? So that we match our businesses to the capital that we are raising. So just wanted to go through those questions for purposes of clarity.
Yes, and now that you mentioned that, David, we'll have an extra session for those who are interested in learning more about investing in the capital market space, because some of you may be particularly interested in that. And so after he presents corporate governance, we'll have a short session on investing in the capital markets, and you'll have a more detailed explanation on that. Yes.
So, to our next session, welcome back. The next session is on corporate governance, something that we have been kind of touching on as we were having the discussion on due diligence. How do we, manage this animal called corporate governance? The particular program said, what are the 5 principles of corporate governance? Apologies, I have 11 slides. I don't have only 5 principles. I have the full bucket list of corporate governance, and let's just go through it and hope that we can be as fast as possible so that we can have a bit of spillover into the public markets investment from Andrew, right? Yeah, so the agenda is definition of corporate governance, why corporate governance, principles of corporate governance, 4 pillars of corporate governance, elements of corporate governance, and takeaways as our program lineup for this session. So what are the definitions of corporate governance? As I said, corporate governance is really the style of management, rule of management, that companies have to adhere to in keeping with the stakeholder engagement and accountability. Yeah. So corporate governance is the application of best management practices, compliance of law in true letter and spirit, adherence to ethical standards for effective management and distribution of wealth, and discharge of social responsibility for sustainable development of all stakeholders. So conduct business in accordance with investors' mandate while conforming to the rules embodied in the law and local customs. So there's an element of law, rule of law. There is ethical standards. There are issues of different stakeholders, development, discharge, distribution of wealth. Corporate governance is supposed to distribute wealth. For those who are not in the business of creating money, you must understand that. It manages relationships and the performance of the corporation and the direction, and also ensures effective management of those relationships between shareholders, managers, board of directors, employees. Okay? So corporate governance is really the animal that influences the way we manage our stakeholder engagement for the ethical and effective management and distribution of what? Of wealth, and achieving social responsibility for sustainable development of all our stakeholders. I think that definition of those 4 elements of the definition give you what corporate governance is about. It's about employees, it's about the board, it's about management, it's about shareholders, it's about environment, it's about the community, it's about the country, the laws that govern us, and so all those issues. And if any failure in any of these areas means there's a failure in corporate governance. Okay? And usually the mandate of corporate governance is usually enshrined at the board. No, it's enshrined within. It's an organization-wide element. So we shouldn't think that when we are doing corporate governance class, that guy who sweeps should not come for the meeting, or the guy at the gate should stay at the gate. We must create time to have the gate man be in the meeting as we discuss corporate governance. Okay? We must make time as a board when we are discussing what are the principles of corporate governance and definition to have those people we don't consider to be stewards, because they are stewards of corporate governance. And it's at their point that it's implemented and enacted. So this is not a board shareholder matter. It is a company-wide, stakeholder-wide matter. And this is the problem that we face in our society and in general, is because we think it's a special subject that should be managed at a certain level where it is hidden and in a book, and it's the 10 Commandments, And therefore, now this is for Moses, that is for the rest. So, it's stakeholder wide. So, why corporate governance? So, as investors, why we ensure that we enforce and ensure that corporate governance is in private capital space? Because we need better exits, co-investors, and higher valuation for investing companies. We need to be able to sell these investments, okay, to return capital to the investors. And to do that, we must demonstrate that there was a stakeholder-wide engagement in best practice. We must lower the cost of capital. Companies that have good corporate governance tend to have cheaper cost of capital. Why? Because they can demonstrate that they can track the use of resources and they can distribute wealth back to shareholders. Okay, and they're great stewards of wealth. Their employees, employers, management, shareholders are all aligned. Okay, so therefore, when they apply for capital, they tend to negotiate for better rates of capital. So the one-man business, I'm very sorry that once you come for capital, you're going to be treated as an individual, and you will put your personal guarantees on that loan, including your wife, your shirt, your trouser, everything. Why? Because you don't have elements of corporate governance in your structure. But you must build them. And corporate governance is not a board. It is that guy who closes your shop. It is the accountant who keeps your books. It is your suppliers. It is your customers. It is who has lent you money and how you paid back that money. It is your ethics. So if you demonstrate to me that you don't have ethics in resource distribution for sustainable development, you don't respect employees, why should I? Okay? I'll make you sign a loan. Even with the security, I'll make you sign all your personal guarantees to that loan because you don't display elements of corporate governance. One, that's where cost of capital comes in. So even if I'm charging you 25% on capital, right? But on that 25%, I'm also saying secure your house and secure all the lands in your names, including everything, including all your integrity. You see, that cost of capital it's 25, but plus. Whereas somebody can come for 25 unsecured. That's a different cost of what? Of capital. It's all 25%, but one has demonstrated that he has critical elements of corporate governance in place: stewardship, accountability, integrity. And then you have demonstrated you don't have. For me to mitigate risk as a financier, I will put more conditions on your facility than the other. And that is a higher cost of capital than the other one. Because the other one can still go and borrow money based on the securities they have. Then improved company performance, sustainability, and reduced risk of corporate crisis and scandal. As we anticipate issues of integrity, ethics, we can reduce risk of corporate crisis and scandal. So the principles of corporate governance, these are the few principles that we can discuss: sustainable development of all stakeholders, to ensure the growth of all individuals associated. So the development of all stakeholders is anyone associated with that company does realize growth. Okay? Effective management and distribution of wealth. Businesses are supposed to create wealth and distribute it to shareholders, to employees, to the community. And they should create that wealth, with the minimal use and waste of resources and provide maximum benefit to stakeholders. That's a principle. That when we go to business, we go to maximize wealth. We don't go to destroy value. We don't go to create enterprises that are destroying forests, that are destroying value, that are charging high prices when they could charge low prices, that are wasteful. Yeah, discharge of social responsibility. Why are you in society? As a business, you must have a social responsibility to a society as a corporate governance, practitioner. You must demonstrate these things, that I'm a responsible member of society. I don't pollute, neither do I cause harm by nature of running my business. And I give back to society. It's not about CSR, it is actually saying I create value for society. For example, if this society did not have my meal here, they would be buying the posho here at 1,500, because they would have to transport it from the other side to this side. But because I'm here, I'm selling it at 1,200, which means I'm giving back to society this value. Those, it's not about giving CSR, it's about creating value and wealth. Application of best management to ensure excellence in functioning of enterprise. That you don't just say, because my daughter did an MBA, she's the best person to be the general manager of it. Why? Was she vetted by the board? Was she vetted by any independent person? Was there independence in that decision? Is there independence in accountability and judgment? Is she accountable if she loses money? Yeah, those are elements where you see now you've employed your son because your son is your son. So what? Then I say that's not a good corporate governance, practice. And you say, but it's my son. Right? So those family businesses that don't seem to appreciate accountability, integrity, practice, let him come for the interview, demonstrate this is where he's taking the business, let him back up his actions with being accountable. Then you give him the job. Or let him say, I'm going to be an understudy of this person and I will learn on this job, give me 6 months and I'll demonstrate that I can do ABCD. That's corporate governance. Compliance with the law. Of course, you have to comply with the law, regulators, pay your taxes. Those are elements of corporate governance. However high they are, you pay them, but you first start by paying them, then you start negotiating these taxes, unfair, or this or that or that or that. Those are because you're in compliance with the country law. Remember, you're doing business in Uganda. This is the Uganda law. So if you need to lobby the law, but don't start by fighting the law. We know you should learn as Ugandans that lobbying is correct. Lobby the politicians. Go back to your politicians. Tell them this and that. Tell them this and that. This is the problem with Uganda. We think that we're going to run the country from wishes. You can't. Also, those people are making suggestions. Why aren't you making suggestions? Why aren't you as businessmen and communities making suggestions? Why aren't you lobbying? Then adhere to ethical standards of integrity, transparency, independence, and accountability in dealing with stakeholders. You must demonstrate independence. You must demonstrate that you're transparent, you have integrity, and you're accountable. I don't know how this can be featured in a family business where your son, because you're majority shareholder, is a GM who has no budget. But because family business. What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine. So how do you wake up to go and say, I have as a finance manager that you're going to go and work for that business? Right? And so as owners of family business, we also must appreciate that these are the elements that will make investors believe that when they put their money in, there will be integrity, there will be transparency, there will be independence, and there will be accountability. Without magic, just that, if they can see it, that it has been happening here in the track record, then they will invest on the basis that they can see. Not on the basis that you have a good business. Yes, you might have. You see, most businessmen think that, one time we visited a businessman and he said he wanted equity in his business. He wanted to invest. So we told him, he said, no, now give me $3 million for 10% of my business. Then that meant that he was saying his business is worth 30 million. So I did a valuation for him and I said, this business really is worth 12 million. So you can imagine what he thought of me. The man said, you mean all the years of my life working, 40 plus years, you can come here as you and tell me that my business is worth $12 million? I said, yes. He said, this is very disrespectful. This is, you see, this is, but I said, the numbers are there, you see them. What do the numbers show? What has your performance been showing? Those are the kind of people who have been hiding the value and taking the value in the business. Now, when it becomes to the reality of where the business actually is, they have not reinvested, they have not grown, they have put in time, but it has nothing to demonstrate. There's no accountability. There's no transparency. There's no wealth for the society. There's no growth. There's just no corporate governance. There's just one man who believes after 40 years he can't be worth $12 million. So how could I help such a person? If that person had structured that business a bit differently, with different stakeholders involved, with different levels of accountability, with different levels of distributing wealth, with different levels of maximizing benefit for the company, indeed it would have been worth more. But because of the way and culture that he ran the business as a single man who directed his family to run it the way he wanted to be run, he suffered the loss in value over time. And when he needed $3 million to be able to kind of maneuver somewhere, because the cash was not there, and he needed to keep going, and he said, I want to give equity, but only 10%. I told him, no. The business is not worth that. It's worth about 12. So be careful how you interpret. You see, those numbers might just mean hard numbers, whatever, but I will blame it on the way he ran the business, which was corporate governance failure on his part. So the 4 pillars of corporate governance are 1, accountability. Ensure that management is accountable to the board and the board is accountable to shareholders. That you have clear separation of shareholder roles, board roles, and management roles. And there's accountability across. So shareholder can't walk into the business, tell the CFO, hey, sign that voucher. I need to draw 50 million from the business. Who are you? I am a 20% shareholder of this business. Who are you? I'm the CFO. So how do we proceed? Right? This is happening. So there is management, there is board, there is shareholders. So shareholders can't be coming to tell management what needs to be done. Or you come to the business shareholder, you start kicking the gate man. What are you doing here? Yeah? Look at this man. Looks so dirty. That is not his responsibility. If he's dirty, go to the head of admin and you call the board members, say, I think I'm noticing a few things that are going wrong. But you can't start come slapping people around, which I see in many family businesses here in Uganda, where shareholders just come in, start slapping everyone around, and then you ask him, who is this guy? He's the owner. What does he do here? He's the owner. He's the shareholder. But is he management? No. But he's the what? He's the owner. No, that man should go to wait for the AGM. And at the AGM, you should say, I'm noticing a few things that are going wrong. Or you should find channels to channel his message to the chairman. The chairman will then channel the message to the CEO will then channel the message. That is what corporate accountability is at different levels. Okay? So let us know. If we want to be in executive management as shareholders, then let us be appointed to the board and then be appointed as executive directors. Not as shareholders, then we are managing. Fairness, protect rights of shareholders, treat all shareholders, including minorities, equitably, and effective redress of violations. Provide effective redress of violations. So we must seem to be fair in corporate governance, okay? So accountability and fairness, you must be fair, that you address issues and you respect the rights of shareholders, especially the minority. Now you are the business owner, you have majority, you have an investor who has minority, and you say, we don't need to talk to that person. After all, they have 10%. No, 10% is as good as 90% in terms of corporate governance management. The reports he receives must be the reports you receive. The guidance he provides is not 10% guidance. As a shareholder, it is what? 100% guidance as your 90%. Okay? It may be when you decide to vote, you determine how you vote. Okay? That is also okay. You have to have a framework which must be fair and protect rights of minorities. Transparent. So it must be transparent in disclosure of all material matters, including the situation, performance, ownership, and the way the company is governed. And it must also be independent. The structures are in place to avoid conflicts of interest. They are independent directors. You don't have a shareholder who's a director, then that same director is an executive director. I mean, he's going to just do anything from A to Z. He will have no level of independence for guidance. So these are some of the areas that you must explore as pillars of corporate governance. And as we go back, you can see accountable, fair, transparent, and independent. If you can remember those, then you can run and it's company-wide. It is not board, shareholder, a few guys. No. Get man to board chair. Then board to shareholders. So the hat you're wearing is critical. What hat am I wearing is critical. Am I a shareholder? Is my son a shareholder? Okay, that is the meeting you're going to have. Are you having a shareholder meeting? Are you having a board meeting? Are you having a management meeting? It must be very clear. Because someone can't say, I don't like the way these things are being run. But who is responsible for running them? Are you a shareholder? Are you a board member? Are you? I don't like that teacher. But who supervises that teacher? Are you a shareholder? Are you a board member? Are you the headmaster? I don't like the way that teacher dresses. But who supervises dressing conduct? At what level? So we must not appear to be solution providers for the organization, as especially shareholders. Especially shareholders. We must understand where we fit. And as you bring in your children in the succession, they must understand at what levels they are entering in succession. Is it board? Okay, yes, it's board. Now, as board member, I don't come in to find out whether today the children ate food or didn't eat food at the school. Otherwise, then I have not put the correct management in place to ensure that the children were fed, or that there was food at the school, or that there was enough money. I must, all these, it's critical that you can't be in out. Right? So elements of good corporate governance. So good board practices include clearly defined board roles and good board practices, clearly defined roles. Because corporate governance is mainly managed at the board. So people assume it's a board matter. It's not. It's company-wide. But the supervisor or the implementer or the person who must continue to monitor it and evaluate its performance is at what? The board. So it's important that you have an effective board to have good corporate governance practices in a company, So clearly defined roles and authority, duties and responsibilities of directors understood. The board is well structured. By structures, I mean it has, the independent, the shareholder who are not independent, or those who are executives. Some level of structure that allows for decision making to be easy. And for family business, it's sometimes very hard. For example, you form a board, your son, your daughter, your wife. So how is the voting going to be done? You're going to say as chairman, I have said that we are going to break that wall. But, okay. And your son doesn't feel like that is a good idea. How must he express it? You see, but for your son to maintain his 4-wheel drive and fueled every Friday, he's just going to say, you do what you want. I voted. The company secretary will write, unanimous. Corporate government decision was made, the structure. But what's the structure really? Was that decision made in independence, in fairness, accountable to stakeholders? Yeah? I don't think so. So, as you invite investors in, be ready to chase away, just have your children as observers, shareholders, and invite other people into the board. So as they observe the meetings, they understand, in the future when I am owner of this business, this is how I'm likely to be influenced in running this business, if it's going to grow beyond this family. Otherwise, we finance it ourselves and we do what we want. But when you invite investors into the business, appreciate that you can't run things the way you are running them. The duties of the directors are understood, usually board charter. The board is well structured, and the composition and mix of skills. So you're running something, and you have a board that is only family, or is only saying yes, or it's just your friends, and all they can do is understand maybe marketing. They don't understand other elements of the business. So it must have skills that support the critical functions of the business. If there are regulatory issues, you have people who understand regulation. If there are commercial issues, you must have people who understand commercial issues. If there are, audit issues that are critical to the running of the business, you must have people who understand audit. Good board procedures, so appropriate number of the board must meet regularly and have meetings and procedures on a regular basis to enshrine accountability. Okay? The control environment. So management information systems established and business continuity procedures in place. There is a control environment that has information. How do we control information in this company? Independent external auditors to carry out audits and audit the company on behalf of the board. Independent audit committees. These are the most critical, an internal audit and external audit. But these, of course, depend on your size. As I said, you structure for size. Okay? As the size gets bigger, we introduce the necessary requirement to ensure accountability, fairness, right? Independence. Don't cram this thing as I must start there. Different things require different levels of sophistication. Okay? So you generate sophistication based on I have more stakeholders, so I must introduce other independence into the process to be answerable to those stakeholders. I have other investors, so I must introduce other people too. I'm alone, so I can as well operate alone. After all, I'm financing my operation. Okay? You remain alone. But if you want to grow for the community, you accept that other members of the community are going to come, and you must be open to opening that up to audit your business, to look into your operations. Then board commitment, the board must commit, needs to discuss corporate governance issues, and has created an improvement plan with appropriate resources committed to the initiative. So there must be commitment from the board to continuously, practice corporate governance. Finally, there should be transparent disclosure. Financial information should be disclosed. Non-financial information should be disclosed. Financials prepared according to rules, the standard rules. You don't just prepare accounts and say, this is our numbers. This is how we have prepared them. This is our way. You must present in ways that are coherent with external stakeholders and well-documented shareholder rights and obligations, because remember, the board is the owner of corporate governance, really, and so it must, and it's representing the shareholders, so it must effectively represent them. That summarizes our discussion on corporate governance. I hope you've picked something. It is a very important element of demonstrating that you are ready for capital. In fact, it's probably the most important over and above the business plan. Of course, you must have a business. But for people to invest money in you, they must understand, how do we supervise our investment? Is there a framework? Is there a structure? Is there a methodology that we effectively supervise the board and supervise management? And is that structure known to us beforehand, not after the fact? That way, they can give you capital cheaper, because they are sure that their value will be enhanced and the investment will be there to maximize, benefit all stakeholders, and be a responsible company. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, another round of applause for David. Okay, we'll have a few questions for the corporate governance seminar. If you have any questions or comments, before we can squeeze in another session on how to raise capital in the capital markets. Question? Yeah. All right. I think I can reach there faster.
Thank you, David, once again. I'm Herbert. Yeah, this corporate government, I want you to throw more light as regards government. Because I'm seeing a lot of corporate governance being mentioned for us in the companies here, but when it comes to corporate governance, the way it is being guided by the government, a lot leaves to be deserved. I'm going to give you an example. The American government on climatic change, they sat down and said, we are not giving money to countries which are not responsible for climatic change damages. And they did not give the money up to now. And you wonder, what kind of corporate governance are you talking about that you require from us? Yet such big institution, governments, they do the opposite. I was shocked. So please, I have understood what you talk when you talk about corporate government to us. But let us see even the governments coming with clear corporate governance. Thank you.
All right. One more.
Hi, I'm Rachel Katut. We have a clean cooking company, and we are in arrangements to get investment. But from your session, I realized we are far from ready. At first, we thought we just had to put books in order, but then I've seen that we might not even pass the preliminary. So my question is, do you have arrangements where companies that want to be ready, like to put those structures in place, because of course we don't have the expertise, to put those structures in place, like where do we go, like what do we do? Because everything is, now we are saying blue, I'm saying we need them, but I don't know where to go.
I think that one can also be answered by one of us. Maybe Dirk will answer that one.
Leonard, once again. David, you have totally inspired me in this room. I've learned a lot of things today. Mine is just a simple question. How many members do I need to constitute a board to start with?
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Okori James. I've been following for the last from yesterday to today. I was following on Zoom. My question is only one, and to Capital Markets Authority. I had a business that failed. It lasted only 1 year. So I'm trying another one. I had a business plan, and there's something I noticed when I traveled to visit a friend in Sudan. He had a similar idea, but different from them, their authority, when you start soliciting for funds to invest in the business, they have agents that not only audit your books, but they come to the ground and study your business. The kind of funding they give you is not only monetary. For example, if you are in agriculture and you're a farmer, they will give you the seeds or they will give you the cattle, depending on the season. These experts study the weather and they know what kind of food to be planted. So they come to the ground, study the soil, and do all these things to make sure they don't make the losses. And when they are taking the profit, they don't take the profit in terms of the finances. They take half of the produce or a quarter, depending on how your agreement was. So to Capital Markets Authority, do you have something that can enable us not make losses again in our businesses or fail in 1 year or two? Thank you.
Okay, I think that also ties into what she asked. Was there another hand here? No? I think that's it, David.
Okay. Yeah, I will start with the areas of business readiness and clinics and direct support and what CMA can do. I think there is a call for businesses to develop or make themselves ready. But I'll first speak to your question that you are ready to fundraise and you feel that from the presentation that you've had today, there is just so much that you need to put in place to make yourself ready. The only thing that you need to make yourself ready to do, to be able to ready to fundraise, is be profitable. Are you profitable? Then you start fundraising. If you're profitable, you fundraise because you have a business case. It's from your business case that I make an investment case. It's from the investment case that I present a 100-day plan to improve and implement the things that we have agreed that you want from the investment, whether it is hire a manager there to grow this line of the business, whether it's to buy equipment, that is the 100-day plan. And all that I put in a term sheet, which is an offer to you. So, if you're not profitable, it's highly likely that you will not raise money. But if you're profitable, even without a board, even without a CFO, even without a general manager, but you've done the most of the company for us to grow. And this is the money that we need for us to grow. You need to demonstrate that because you're the business owner and you understand if we're to move from X to Y, we can't move from X to 10X in 5 years without putting these things in place. And these things will take not 5 years, but they might take 10 years. And we shall put them in a phased manner. And in that phasing, we shall manage the milestones. And how do we manage the milestones? We shall have management meetings and we shall have board meetings, which then will be the framework for accountability and governance. And that's how you get a business from X to 10X. You don't get a business 10X, then you fundraise. Is that clear? Are you getting the balance? So the aspiration and the desire and end goal is big. But that is a vision. That is a vision as long as you have a business case which says, I have a profitable business. That is the most critical area to raise money from. So I hope I answer that. So don't fear fundraising if you're profitable. Otherwise, unless you have a wish list, then it becomes a problem to even start demonstrating that there is a business case here. Boards usually are a framework of balance, fairness. Okay, so you probably have a chair who might have a deciding vote, and you have other 2 members. So if 2 members have voted yes, the board chair is not supposed to start saying that no. Okay, so 3 members really can form a board. If 2 members are saying yes, no, then the decision will fall on the chair. If the 2 members have said no, then you can't have a chair say, I have the deciding vote now. I've said no. I've said yes, right? So 3 members is really where you can have, even not a board, just advisors, a team or a committee of advisors. You don't have to form boards. You just need to demonstrate that you have a framework for accountability, independence, and decision-making that allows you to make the best decisions. CMA, I think, will speak to this issue of business clinics, government support, etc. How can we make things real? Like, you want to raise money, you get business advisory support, you get business readiness support. On top of that, you get technical assistance from the experts. And on top of that, the payment plan is also designed to match your risk profile. I think these are areas that, for better lack of a word, we for example, now the organizations that, or associations that are responsible for developing this, at least at district level or regional level, have not been concretized. And what we see today are things like PDM and that, without necessary focus on enterprise development models, yeah, which can be, these are things CMA could take up as lobbying. I can't promise anything in their stead. Government is a government of, by, for the people. I think, I know we all have, corporate government is not something that's easy. And sometimes people say that we deserve the governments we have. Why? Because we are willing to also continue to do things in the way that we know is wrong. If we expect an accountable government, then we must demand accountability because we are accountable. I think that's the easiest way. All governments exist because of the nature of the citizens that they govern, not the other way around. So that really is a journey to the ideal, but there's just no way you can expect and demand government accountability if it's not coming from its people. I can't really replace the Prime Minister on that question. So with that, I will leave the, yes? Unless there are any more questions for me, yes?
Any more questions?
Thank you so much. My concern is what my sister there asked, that if you're saying that you're ready, where exactly do you go? That's what she asked, and I feel I didn't get that answer right.
Okay. The exercise today, let me just speak to it. The exercise today was focusing on what investors are likely to want in the process of demonstrating ability to raise capital from an entrepreneur. But where do you go? There are two questions that you're asking here. One, am I business ready to fundraise? And I said, as long as you're profitable, you have a business case. That is the question you answer to yourself. Then she's saying, what kind of structures must I put in place to demonstrate my readiness to fundraise? So first was profitability, two is people. Do I have people around me who are going to execute this plan, or am I planning to have these people to execute this plan, okay? And as I present my business case that I'm profitable and my business plan of where I need to go and why I need the money, how am I going to execute it? Those are the two most important questions that somebody fundraising money should answer. Where do you go? Now, there are various sources of capital. I'm standing here wearing the hat of a private provider of capital, but I'm unlikely to invest in your enterprise because of A, the value chain that I deal in, and the sector I deal in, maybe the size that I deal in. There is no public directory for capital unless CMA you've made it available. But I think the question they're asking is, who do we go to be able to raise money? Is there a direct link to raise money? What I could say is one of the programs that is being developed is a deal flow facility under the FSDU program and funded by FSDU. So that's one of the areas I think CMA is supporting.
I was going to address it, yes.
Yes, okay, then you can address that. I think that for me was the most immediate.
Thank you for your question on where you can go. My name is Drake Murozi. I work with the Capital Markets Authority. We have currently two programs that we are running. The Issuer Education Program. Issuer Education Program is run by the Capital Markets Authority. This is one of its initiatives, educating potential issuers on how to access capital markets or market-based financing. So under this program, we have resource persons. These are consultants that are mandated to reach out to business owners and sensitize them on market-based financing and how to access it and how to get investment ready. So these consultants have terms of references, and key outputs that they must achieve before they are paid. But they are paid by the Capital Markets Authority. Andrew Mwima, who is making the next presentation, who presented yesterday, is part of that program. So one of the key milestones, the first one is presenting to the board of directors of any potential issuer. The other milestone is enabling you raise capital. That is also a milestone with which they are paid. The other program that we run that David has hinted on is the deal flow facility. This is a technical assistant facility that was set up by the Capital Markets Authority in partnership with Financial Sector Deepening Uganda and the European Union. It's housed by the Financial Sector Deepening Uganda. So what this initiative hopes to achieve is helping businesses access market-based financing. They do this through taking you the preparatory steps for you to access business financing. So in case you're not investment ready, this facility takes you through the process of getting investment ready. On top of that, they get you in touch with funders. So they act as a linkage between the providers of capital and the seekers of capital. So on top of giving you technical support, they will help you get funders for your business. And this time frame, like already David has hinted, is not a short time frame. They will take you through the process, help you get investment ready, get your books in place. If you require a board, have it set up, have the right governance structures in place to enable you access market-based financing. So when you just Google or go to the website of Financial Sector Deepening Uganda, there's a link for you. You can register your business and get in touch with them and see how they'll get you investment ready. Financial Sector Deepening Uganda, FSD Uganda. So if you go to their website, there's a link for you to register and participate in the deal flow facility. So key among the benefits, even when you check out the website, is helping you find the right investor. They'll also build your investment readiness. They'll help you with your transaction support team and just get your issue stronger in terms of raising finances. I thank you. I think we'll move on to the next presenter, Andrew Mwima. Thank you, David, for your presentation. I think it was quite insightful. I think we should give him a round of applause. Andrew presented yesterday on public markets, initial public offers and corporate bonds. Today we had a presentation on private markets, which include, among others, private equity. But Andrew is going to talk about how to invest or how to help you invest in the capital markets, which some of you may be interested in. Andrew, over to you.
Good afternoon once again. I hope we are all well. Huh? Thank you for sitting. And David has really done a very good job. He's a very intelligent man, and I hope you took his number. He has a habit of not sharing his number, but we shall surely give it to you. And David can do for you a lot of work when it comes to the private space. Though I gave you the information on the public, but sometimes if you recall the discussion of changing the baton, sometimes the private investors will hold you up to a certain level, then beyond that we come in public. I also do that, by the way, as Drake mentioned. I'm part of the issuer resource contractors rather. So I have a fairly good working relationship with the deal flow facility and USAID. So beyond David, there are other private players we may be able to, at some level, assist you with. I know the stomachs are also demanding. I think we can bear 20 minutes such that I compress this message on investment. As we saw yesterday, if I see you dozing, I know your names. So you will be called upon to participate. Try to remain attentive as much as possible. Beyond raising money, there is a lot the capital markets can do for you, a lot. And for the 20 minutes, we wanted to see the investment bit. Like I said yesterday, the lady who asked the question, you want to invest in shares. Without the principle of raising finance, you cannot have an instrument where you can invest. David has been speaking about equity. Equity, that's selling stocks, selling shares. It's simply one arm of the investment alternatives which you will find in our markets. So for those of you with a background like me and David, who are stockbrokers, who used to work at exchanges, the people behind in the background could ring a bell. You've watched TV, you see some men who look mean putting on red jackets, blue jackets. Those are traders. So we want to see what they do and how they can assist you at different levels. If you're sophisticated enough, the capital markets, you may imagine these are numbers and complicated graphs. Somebody trying to buy a currency, to buy a Bitcoin and things like that. But it's sometimes simpler than what it looks. There are so many stakeholders in this industry of ours. We have the Central Bank, Bank of Uganda, which borrows on behalf of the government by issuing instruments we are going to look at. Then commercial banks, you cannot invest without them. You can use mobile money, but from experience, I discovered that investors who earn dividends on mobile money are not good investors. The temptation to buy data and airtime. So commercial banks are very important. Even when you're transferring money to a stockbroker, a fund manager, or the primary dealer, who is the bank, you need the commercial banks. Then of course the CMA, it gives oversight, general regulation. In case you've been defrauded or you have a complaint, you always report to CMA. Under this we have the stock exchanges, we have brokers, investment advisors, fund managers, custodians, etc. Then there are other players such as pension funds and insurance companies. So capital markets are also those marketplaces where different financial and investment instruments are bought and sold. Now, the CMA itself is the equivalent of Bank of Uganda, to simplify it for you. The actual place where you buy and sell stocks, bonds, and things like those, even commodities in Uganda now, it's what we call the Securities Exchange. It's just that CMA is the parent. Then these are maybe the firstborns, people who are also important. Across the world, you find what we call stocks. You find treasury bills, treasury bonds, commercial paper, municipal bonds, commodities, derivatives, even currencies. I believe you remember our discussion on bonds yesterday. Are you sure? Michael, what did we say a bond was? Yeah, very true. A loan. Patrick, do you remember what we spoke about a municipal bond? Yeah, okay. But those are bonds. Bonds are debts. So you can lend. You can lend to the government, you can lend to a company, you can lend to a district. just to refresh the discussion on public markets in a minute, they assist institutions to raise funding. So if government is issuing a treasury bill or a treasury bond, you who is buying that bond, you're giving that government money. You're getting it. Government is getting funding to build a road, to pay a teacher, to pay a soldier. I think budget week might be this or next week. This week, as Mr. Kasaija is reading, he may mention 30% of this budget this year is going to be funded domestically. So domestic funding means that money comes from you and me. NSSF, the commercial banks, whoever buys that bond, you're an investor, but you're actually contributing to the development of the country. Then as we saw, a company can issue a commercial paper, which is a short-term debt. It's like a twin of a treasury bill, 1 year, 6 months, or 3 months. Or a company can also issue what we call a corporate bond. This one is long-term, 2 years and beyond. Then the places we come from are the ones which issue the municipal bonds. Mbale, Mbarara, Gulu, Arua, Kabale, Buikwe. Buikwe is part of Lugazi. It's on its own. Yeah, okay, the greater Lugazi of those days. Soroti, Drake who comes from Chisoro or Chigali, municipal bonds, the district, to build a market and things like that. So all these debt instruments, like we saw, interest is paid back biannually. That's every 6 months. A bank loan, you pay back interest on a monthly basis. These treasuries and corporate bonds, the interest which you receive as an investor comes back to you every 6 months. As I speak right now, there are over 66 treasury bills and bonds which have not yet matured. Around 33 treasury bills and 33 treasury bonds. There are investors who do it in such a way that you, especially those in retirement, you just pick 6 bonds. He spoke about him being the managing director in UCB and Stanbic, retired. You can look at him, he's still looking good. Most likely, he has invested in these bonds. Many people who knew about them. Spread your money properly, 6 bonds. You do it in such a way that one gives you a coupon in January and July. Another gives you in Feb and August, March and September. You will look nice like him when you retire. Mr. Patrick, who is still young. So that is how the bonds can work for you as an investor. The highest interest rate in my past, at least my exposure at the exchange was 14%. 14%. Stella, have you borrowed for your company, solar company, in the commercial banks? What rate did they charge you? Exactly. Per annum. It can even be 28 or 30. In my 10 years at the USE, it's just that we shall have another call for you to come and listen to the corporate bonds. The bonds were at 12%, 13%. The highest by Kakira was 14%. So you can imagine Standard Chartered, Stanbic came to the market, borrowed at 12%. Sometimes even borrowed at 11%. But then they would lend to the public at 22%, at 25%, even 30%. So it's business. The banks sometimes come to the capital markets, borrow cheaply, then they lend to the public expensively. Then equities, like we saw yesterday, and like David has also mentioned, you sell shares in your business in order to raise funding which is not a debt. So you have no compulsion to pay back interest or principal. But an investor would be happy if you share a dividend. I believe in the private equity space, the dividends could be some almost interest related and a resemblance of preferential equity. We saw those numbers yesterday, why you should consider listing. For those of you that didn't attend, you will have to give me a phone call and I explain to you in detail with an invoice. This was free, but beyond today, I will have to invoice for every minute I spend with you. I need to grow fat also. So beyond, before we look at a share and the other investment instruments, very recently, I believe last year, USE advertised or announced you can now trade in commodities. You don't need to go to Mbale to buy coffee. You don't need to go to Masindi to buy maize or Movende. You can actually buy a contract. A contract which is a paper or a receipt by Uganda Warehouse Receipts Authority. USE CMA is somehow hidden in there. With that paper, if you hold it, you can simply wait. If maize was 700 when you bought, and in July, it's maybe 1,800, you can sell that receipt to somebody and they give you money, other than you incurring transport and storage costs. So commodities are actually investment alternatives. The numbers you see here, it's an extract of the, I believe it's the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, but we might get there one day. You won't need to go to Lisa to mine oil. You will be able to buy a receipt on oil, gold, silver, natural gas, copper. Corn is also maize, and wheat. These are some of the global commodities you can even participate in now. And in Uganda, we are getting there slowly, slowly. The last I had, you would be able to buy maize and to buy beans through the agroways and other players. Things like cocoa, coffee, cotton. Do we have Swahabas in this room? Muslims. Apologies, but there's that animal there. It's that one which some of you enjoy taking a lot. A hog, cattle, timber, soya, sugar, and wheat. So you're able to trade in all these commodities across the financial markets. It's an investment as well. Then sometimes, if you want to invest and you're at that decision-making point, you either want to invest in Uganda, Kenya, just to help you decide, we have what we call indices, stock market indices. They give you an average of the movement of all the shares trading on that market. If they are consistently red, it means that you will most likely lose value over time. Maybe stay away from that country or those securities. The time we made this slide, it was on the advent of the Brexit. If you notice, most markets across the world took that news badly in London, Germany, Italy, Spain, and most of the shares in those markets were dropping. Same story this side. So when you watch TV sometimes, NTV Business, and you see a green arrow going up, a red arrow going down, it's actually saying something. Green on average, Stanbic, Cipla, MTN may be gained. If it's red, most likely they shed value. Let's briefly look at what a share is. A unit of ownership in a company. When you buy shares in MTN or Airtel and the others, you receive part of the profit which they have made. The telecoms in Uganda pay you dividends on a quarterly basis. Umeme has been paying dividends twice a year. The others once. If you remember what I told you, when you're going public, investors may sometimes not be over interested in your making a profit of 300 billion. But if you have a lot of gum in your hands and you're giving them a dividend which is less than 1 shilling or 2 shillings, there won't be activity on your account. I hope you remember that point. So there are companies actually which perform excellently, but they have mukono gum. They don't give a lot of dividends. So you receive dividends when you invest in these stocks. The share prices appreciate in value. It's like planting a mango tree. Over time you start harvesting. Your money can grow. Just for emphasis, had you bought shares in Uganda Clays, IPO year was 2000. The IPO price was around 4,000. The equivalent share price even today is around 28,000. If you're to factor in the splits and bonus issues, had you committed 10 million shillings in Uganda Clays, it would have grown to 67.5, giving you a return on investment of 575. British American Tobacco started trading at 1,000. As we speak right now, 15,000. Before I left the exchange, that's around, I left last year, but in 2022, around August, the share price had been at 30,000 shillings for over 4 years. Had you used 10 million in BAT, it would have been 300 million. I like using an example. One of my former bosses, he came to me. He had supervised me many years ago. He had certificates in battle. Said, hey, Andrew, how can you help me? Is there anything I can get from these certificates? He had around 2,000 shares of BAT. He had bought those shares, I think, at 300. Fast forward, when we converted those shares to money, transferred them into the electronic form, and he sold them, he had used around 2 million. When he exited, he had around 80. He brought certificates to me. He didn't even know. He thought somebody would burn them. He walked away with a huge chunk of money. Unfortunately, he didn't even say thank you. Can imagine, after making a kill. But people have made money. Then BAT, rather Bank of Baroda, started trading at 600. It's at around 6,000 as we speak, the equivalent. Your money would have grown by 785. DFCU, 7,750. There are also cases where your money can drop. You can lose value. So we have seen cases of Quality Chemicals, which is at around -40 now. National Insurance at maybe -50. MTN is slowly improving. But on average, if you do it with some guidance, like we shall see later, your money can actually grow. Across the border, Housing Finance Bank, Kenya, the return on your investment would have been 7,675, KCB 2,660, Equity Bank 1,459. You get a chance to own a company, you're not able to start on your own. Mr. Joel Mbabazi, when you're out there at your free time, in your empire, how much money do you spend at break time? Maybe to take a chapati, I may be offending you, but when you're sipping a cup of tea, how much? On average, yeah? 5,000 to 6,000. But let me assume, on average, some of us spend 2,000, 1,000. Just as a basic example, roasted cassava and maybe a pancake. I asked a question yesterday. Who has invested? It was only Mr. Leonard who put up his hand. Many of us think that shares are for the extremely rich. The Sudirs, the David Wangolos, and the other millionaires across the country. 5K is good enough, even 2K. Over the years, through the CMA, I've even gone to schools, secondary schools, and shown children the share price of Stanbic is 25 shillings. Share price of National Insurance is 16 shillings. Those days it was even 6. I think Bank of Baroda as we speak is 7 Uganda shillings, not dollars, not pounds. According to our rules, be able to afford one. If you're to divide 2,000 by 25, those are how many shares of Stanbic Bank, the largest bank in Uganda. A mathematician to help me, maybe 8, isn't it? 2K. That Rolex which you're taking at break time, you fast for one day. Those are 8 shares of Stanbic. A broker won't tell you it's too little. Because I educated those children, they started with 5,000, 10,000. You're not just buying, but you're becoming a shareholder. You can go in the AGMs, even blast management. Why is that gatekeeper dressed that way, the way David was telling us? That is the power you get when you become a part owner. These shares can be used as collateral, even the bonds. If you want to borrow from a bank and you don't want to put your land title, your car logbook, shares are accepted as security for you to access loans, even the bills and bonds. They are excellent tools to save. How many of us are parents? Just by show of hands. You're a mother, you're a father. You're not yet. You're not yet a parent? Not yet. How many of you have school-going children? Okay, some of us do. But recently, as the first term was beginning, I believe you saw alerts on WhatsApp. School fees to Chitende, was it 3 million, joining S1, Nabingo 2.8, Chisubi maybe 3 million. You can imagine the cost of living is going up. I studied secondary 98, 2003. I was in primary 91, 97. Nursery earlier than that. But what I recall, my parents have files for all of our school fees. Primary school, I used to pay 5,000 shillings. In a very nice school, it was one of the best in the whole of Nakawa, somewhere in Ntinda. Later, I went to study somewhere in Jinja, secondary. School fees used to be 80 to 120,000. But today, where Mwima used to pay 5,000, a child in nursery, a fairly decent school, you're parting with 700,000 shillings. Did you know that if you have babies now, there is a very big likelihood that tuition at university might be 20 million when it's 17 to 18 years from now? How do you save as a parent? Insurance is good, but you can buy for your children stocks. The Stanbics which are 25, the MTNs which are 180, the Airtels which are 90, the Barodas which are 8 shillings will keep growing and growing. As the businesses grow, there is a ripple effect on their share prices. So like we saw the example of BAT, buy low after a long period of time. If you've invested for your children, you'll be able to sell off some of those stocks and pay their tuition. Then things like building wealth, we'll speak about it very briefly, but shares are also very good weapons when it comes to inflation. Just for emphasis, beyond you getting private equity and maybe public equity, listing your company on the stock exchange, in my observation, if you take this route, you can actually become very wealthy. Very, very wealthy and loaded. If we are to list some of the names of the richest men and women in the world today, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates. These guys actually, like we saw in my presentation yesterday, when they start their businesses, they think about going public. If you're to look at the story of Bill Gates, it could be a one-off, but there are many cases. He listed Microsoft in 1986 March. He was looking for equity. For you, you're running and dreaming about getting money from a bank. For him, he thought about equity in 1986. Between 1986 and 2018, had somebody invested $1,000 in Microsoft, it would have grown to $1.6 million US. When he was selling his company, he did not sell 100% to the public. He retained a stake, which has since grown by over 160,000%. You're getting it. Huh? If you remember our discussion of owning 1% of an ocean compared to owning the whole pond, sometimes relinquish the mistakes David has pointed out. You're making your son a CFO. You're making your wife the head of human resource or head of marketing. When you minimize and bring in professionals, your company will grow and you will thank us later. I hope you will be willing to return a handshake for this knowledge which we have given you. Sure. $100 invested in Amazon 1997 has grown by 120,000%. That's why you see every time those lists are released, it's the usual suspects. It's either Jeff Bezos, it's either Bill Gates, it's either a certain French fellow. We have looked at treasury bills. Good for you if you're approaching retirement, but good for you also if God made you and you fear losing money so much. You drop a coin of 1,000 and everybody around you looks bad. You look at the world badly because you have lost money. Bonds are good for you. If you're young and you have a fairly good risk appetite, which I wanted to assume all of you have as entrepreneurs, the stocks are the best for you. Let's close with the unit trusts, a collective investment scheme. I like telling people this is like a balanced diet. It has a share, it has a bond, it has a fixed deposit, it has everything. So a unit trust pulls money from different investors, and that money is invested in different assets. So somebody may be biased, let me only invest in stocks. Another, let me only put it in bonds. But this one, it spreads your money across different assets. Because you're investing as a group, the amount of money or the initial investment you need to commit sometimes is as low as 50,000. Minimum for bonds and bills 100,000. But here, 50,000 maybe with Zeno or 100,000 with UAP is enough for you to start investing across any of these instruments. In Uganda, as we speak, we have the money market fund, which invests in only short-term financial instruments. That's a treasury bill, commercial paper, and a fixed deposit. A balanced fund, on the other hand, invests in long-term. That's a long-term bond, a corporate bond, and maybe a property somewhere. Then an umbrella trust fund invests in a mixture of both short and long-term. There are those who offer bond funds, domestic equity funds, regional funds, dollar funds. So all of those are innovations. The biggest benefit I've seen with unit trusts, it's liquidity. It's almost cash, only that you earn money literally daily. In the event that an emergency has arisen, good or bad, they tell you, your loved one needs to go for surgery, and they need maybe 15 million. If you've made the mistake and put all your investments in a square mile, in a Ramuo, in a Gomba, in Luganda, they will say you will knock. The problem will come, you will look for a buyer for that square mile. You spent 10 billion shillings, and the person will tell you, since you have an emergency, I'm giving you 800 million. So you end up losing. But having some money in these unit trusts, you can easily address all of those problems. All these instruments are licensed by CMA. You earn interest on a daily, and we saw that. Then diversification. It's managed by a professional. The fund managers are experts. I also like telling people, sometimes if you are given an annual report of Airtel, 300 pages, if you don't have a finance background like David and Andrew, by the time you open page 5, you will start dozing. So a broker and an investment advisor, they know where to go. They know how to read a balance sheet, they know how to read an income statement, and to give you conclusions. So those professionals are very important to us. Then it's affordable. Currently, the returns you earn from the unit trusts are not taxed. Investment process across the board, all you need to do is to open an investment account. For shares, it's called SCD, Securities Central Depository. Bank of Uganda may call it CDS or CSD. Unit trust, it's called an investment account. All we need is a passport photo, national ID front and back, and maybe your bank statement. The rest, when I send it to you on email, you print, complete, scan back. It's as seamless as that. You have some little money, we can help you to start that journey. Then you deposit some money with the broker, fund manager, or the bank, then you start your journey. Words of wisdom. This is my last slide. Always look out for licensed investment vehicles. How many of us are victims of Capital Chicken, Telex Free, etc.? Put up your hand. There is a prize for you. Some dollars. But I know some of you are, and maybe you're not proud of it. Always when these people tell you there is a heaven on earth, give us 10 million, we are going to give you 5 million every month. The first starting point, visit the CMA website. Are these people licensed? You will save yourself a lot of headache and a lot of problems. Speak to investment professionals before you start this journey. That is why I don't speak for free, because sometimes the information we share makes people rich. You can imagine somebody put 2M, he walked away with 80 when he didn't know. There are many other stories and testimonials to that. So speak to professionals, stockbrokers, advisors, the Davids of this world. Trust me, they will get you out of a lot of problems. You want to build a certain factory somewhere, and you want to see how your savings can grow to attain those targets. The professionals will guide you. Have a long-term perspective. These markets of ours require patience. Obugumikiriza. There is no kagwirawo. So that's why you can't plant an avocado seed today, Tuesday, and you think Saturday I will start harvesting and shipping. Sometimes it takes time. These shares, you can buy them in June. And for you to start making sense, it may take a year or two. And when you're investing on a regular basis, which I think is the next bullet, in my experience, a person who uses a little on a regular basis is much better than the one who gets a huge chunk of money and dumps it at once in the Stanbic stock or in MTN. One who can use 100,000 and you keep putting it across. Today you do Cipla, the other month you do MTN, the other you do Stanbic. You will feel and enjoy the markets better, other than getting a lot of money and you speculate or gamble. You will lose most of it. You can gain, but it's dangerous. So do it regularly. Then diversification. If I was Moses those days in investments, this would be the first commandment. always avoid putting all your eggs in one basket. However excellent they are telling you about coffee, about chicken, it's very dangerous to put all your hard-earned money in a business or in one thing. Trust me, David didn't mention, but the sun may become very hostile, and the 10 square miles of maize which you planted, they go. You have chicken to feed, and you have literally, the people who have given you money are expecting returns, so you can actually lose everything. The same thing, however excellent it may appear that Stanbic is, don't put all the money there. The wiser person, you do a little in all and keep growing the portfolio. Start slowly and increase that money over time. That's why if little to you is 200,000, if little to you is 100, do that, but on a regular basis. Do it even for your children. And apparently you will just allow me to share this, because I'm sometimes invited in churches also. But God will make you accountable for the resources He has given to you, the talents. So if you use money poorly, it seems God also won't be happy. So that's why things of making sure other people benefit are important. Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time and lunch, we shall stop there. But if you missed getting my contact yesterday, I will still share. It's 774 163016. 774 16 30 16. You have groups which need information on investing, I can come and share. Even financing, I can come and share. Thank you once again for listening.